Hi, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of a Tailor-Made Life podcast, where every conversation is one step closer to designing the life that God has for you. I am your host, Taylor Renee, and as always, I am so excited to have you back here with me, you guys. We are on our 30th episode. It's been a journey. It's been a ride. We are just getting started. Thank you guys. We made it this far in the process, in the journey. Thank you so much. We are just chugging right along. So, yeah, let's get right into it, right? Something happened this past week, and it started to make me question, right? And the question was, have you ever had someone describe you in a way that felt totally, completely opposite of who you actually were? Like when somebody gave descriptive words that were supposed to describe you, it made you question how people perceived you. Like it made you say, that's how you see me? Like, have you ever had that happen to you? Because I feel like it happens to me more often times than I'd like to admit. And I don't know. Let's just talk about it, right? I think some of the hardest feedback that we receive in our everlasting lives is the feedback that doesn't match how we see ourselves, right? When somebody, describes you as weak and you think that you're the strongest person ever, right? Or somebody describes you as mean and you're like, no, I'm not mean. I'm extremely nice. I do this, I do that, I do this. I feel like it's the hardest feedback and the easiest feedback to reject because it doesn't align with how we see ourselves. And the main reason is because you know your own intentions, right? You know your own heart. You know how you feel about certain things, about your job, about your passion, about your kids, about your relationships. You know how you feel about those things, right? But other people only experience what you actually communicate. They only experience what you bring forth, not your intentions, right? And so the main question that I had leading up to this moment was, how do people actually experience me? How do they experience you? Notice, I didn't ask, does everybody like you? I asked, how do people experience you? This isn't about changing who you are to make you more likable. This is about being willing to examine yourself when your intentions and your impact don't seem to match, right? Okay, hear me out. This past week, I had a conversation, and I won't get into all the details about the conversation or, whatever, but just know that it was a Monday. Your girl was tired. I had been out having a good time over the weekend, and I'm talking on the phone, and I am a little tired. I am a little fatigued. I'm kind of getting out of it. I get a conversation, and someone makes a comment, and what they said to me kind of rubbed me the wrong way initially, right? And sometimes I wonder if you actually like your job based on how you sound when you talk to me. Like when we talk, sometimes it makes me question whether or not you like your job, whether or not you're happy with what you're doing. And I was like, huh? What do you mean by that? Because here I am thinking, I'm so utterly grateful to be in this role, right? I appreciate this opportunity. You don't find me complaining. I joke around, I say thank you. I'm appreciative of people. I genuinely enjoy what I do. So how did you get the impression that I don't enjoy my job? How did you get that impression? And it stung, right? It felt like a slap in my face. And I don't want this whole conversation to be about being offended. This whole conversation isn't intended for me to express how sad I was or how offended I was by it or whatever the case was, right? Because the bigger lesson here was for me to start wondering how others perceive me. If that person isn't the only one that feels that way, then what is the perception of me? How do people experience me? How are people perceiving me while I'm at work, because here I am having an intention to show up in this as this positive, outgoing, joyful, high-spirited person versus how it's actually landing, how people are actually perceiving me, right? And so in some ways, in certain ways, I was kind of grateful that it was brought to my attention in that way, because it kind of made a light bulb go off. Well, let me start thinking about that. I started thinking about the possibility that people could see me as mean or unpleasant or ungrateful, God forbid. And my first instinct, of course, was that's not me, right? Like, obviously, that's genuinely not who I am as a person. But then I had to catch myself, because maybe the goal, and again, the goal isn't to defend myself or defend my pride. The goal here is to start questioning if there's something that I need to examine about how I show up, right? Because, again, I know myself. I know my heart. I know my intentions. I'm sure you know yourself, and you know your heart, and you know your intentions as well. But there's a difference between knowing yourself and being perceived by others. There's a difference between how you intended to show up versus how you actually show up, and how people actually experience who you are. I know that I'm grateful. I know that I'm positive. I know that I care about the work and I appreciate the people, and I'm not walking around angry all day. I know that, right? Like, that's obvious to me, but other people may not have access to all that. Just seriously speaking, right? Other people don't have access to my intentions. They experience my tone, right? My facial expressions. They experience my energy, my communication, how chirpy I am when I say hello. And some people are nitpickers, right? Some people are just, oh, she said it with a tone. She said it with an attitude when she said hello. Some people are like that. And I'm not saying that I have to change the way that I speak just to appease other people. However, how approachable I am to those around me is important. It is the very thing that could keep you or break you, right? And so, again, people don't have access to your intentions. They only have access to what you communicate, right? And that can be a little uncomfortable, because, again, we're so comfortable in our intentions. We love to say what we meant to do. I meant the best. I meant to say it like this. I meant for you to take it like this. But two things can be true, where what you meant and what that person experienced are two different things, right? And they are both truthful. And so intentions versus impact, that's the bigger lesson here. That's the heartbeat of this conversation. Your intentions versus how you actually impact those around you. You don't have to decide that the person perceiving you a certain way is wrong and your intentions are right. You don't have to perceive that that person is right and your intentions are wrong. Like those two things can coexist and happen all at the same time, right? Maybe you are a little misunderstood. Maybe I was misunderstood in that moment, right? And maybe I could communicate myself differently. Both things can exist. And that's where the maturity comes in. Instead of reverting to, oh, you're just wrong about me, oh, you just don't know me, oh, you just don't understand me, ask, right? There's a point where I had to ask myself, is there anything about how I'm showing up that I need to examine? Obviously, my intentions aren't landing how I want them to land. Now, I want us to be clear, because there's a difference between, obviously, changing yourself versus developing yourself. Now, I, of course, am not an advocate, nor will I ever be an advocate for performing and people-pleasing and trying to appease others and changing, key parts of who you are to make others happy or to fit in. No. However, I am a big fan and a huge advocate for character development. I believe that the same person who you are sitting here right now will not be the same person that sits in that same seat next year, right? If it is, then something is wrong, okay? I personally did not come this far as these 24 years have lended me. I've not come to this point to stay the same person. When I'm 26, I'm going to be somebody different, right? The core foundational values of who I am are not going to change, obviously, but I am hoping to have developed in my character, right? And so that is what I'm speaking on, right? That there's an important distinction between changing yourself and character development. And I couldn't walk away from that conversation thinking that I'm a miserable person, so I just need to start smiling more and becoming super outgoing. No, that's not the lesson, right? Like, I'm still allowed to be quiet. I'm still allowed to have my lower energy days. I'm still, allowed to be introverted and to be serious and not to talk all day. Because that's naturally who I am, in a sense, right? I'm not the most outgoing person. I can sit in a room and just not say anything and put my head down and just work or just do whatever, be in my own world. I can do that. And it doesn't mean that I have to change that every single part of me to fit just because I receive some feedback, right? I don't have to perform happiness, but maybe there are some ways that I can show up or be more intentional about showing warmth, and that's a real hard pill for me to swallow. And so maybe that looks like showing the nicer part of my personality, or being more personable, or expressing my appreciation in more outgoing ways. I can admit that's something that could definitely be worked on. And this isn't the first time, if I'm being 100% transparent, that my intentions haven't been the same as my impact, right? But it's easy to reject feedback when it doesn't align with our self-image, right? When something goes against who we thought we were and it goes against our pride and our ego, right? It's easy to reject that feedback because we don't want it to shatter who we thought we were. And so I can say that I don't think that person's perception of me was the complete truth. I know that that is not true about me, right? But I also don't want to be so committed to the way that I see myself that I'm unwilling to examine how other people experience me, how other people experience my tone and my attitude and my communication skills. I know my intentions, but it doesn't mean that that person or the people around me experience my intentions. That's the balance. You don't have to accept every opinion, but you should be willing to investigate the patterns of how you show up, the patterns of your attitude, of your communication, especially if you've heard similar feedback before. There's a point that I also want to make, though, because within this conversation, there are two things that it boils down to, and it's self-awareness versus insecurity. And self-awareness is something that requires maturity. It requires you to think beyond your current feelings and emotions and the current circumstance, right? Self-awareness in this situation, in this moment, says that maybe there is something that I need to work on. Self-awareness is being aware of self. It's so being aware of your attitudes and your personality shifts and your coldness and your structure and all the icks about yourself that that are there, right? Being self-aware and having maturity is allowing for you to say, you know what, maybe there is something that I can work on, right? Insecurity is taking the easy way out. Insecurity is simply saying, oh, everybody hates me. Oh, everybody must secretly hate me. Oh my gosh, they must talk about me in the meetings. They just hate me. That's insecurity, and it's the cheap way out because it's easy to just go to that mindset. It's easy to just say, oh, they hate me. Oh, I just want to give up. Everybody hates me anyways. No, nobody said that. I've only given you something to examine so that you could work on in your personal time. I'm not telling you to give up, right? It's important for us to remember that we can take the feedback without taking on the identity. Feedback is not identity. Feedback is suggestion, right? Feedback is something that we are to take the meat and we leave the bones. It does not take on a separate identity. So I don't want us to be so insecure about feedback or about this moment. And I'm talking to myself too, because it's easy for me to just say, I'm trying, and it's still not working, right? So let me just give up. No, it's easy for me to be so insecure about it. I had to sit with God. Like, I had to understand that, God, what is the reason? What is the purpose? What are the intentionality behind you allowing this to come to me? And why do they see me this way? Or why is this a thing? And what are you trying to show me, right? And I can't just say that I just have all the answers and I just know what exactly is the point. But I can say that, again, maybe God in these moments, in these times, are trying to develop things in you. The humility, the ability to put a mirror up to your face, right? Your emotional intelligence, your self-awareness, right? Your faith. You understand? Like, again, taking the cheap way out is just allowing yourself to get in a sludge. It's allowing yourself to be sad about it. It's allowing yourself to just go harp on the bad instead of taking what it is that is given to you, right? Understanding that, okay, my intentions may not match my impact. How can I fix that? How can I fix it? Do you want to be the same person, or do you want to grow and get better? It's one or the other. If you want to grow and get better, baby, we have to take the high road. We have to continue to learn. We have to make everything as a learning point. We have to make everything something to learn from. And honestly, that's just what I tell myself. That's what I have to amp myself up with when I'm going through these moments, or unless I will fall into the trap. And so again, shifting that mindset, right? Feedback is information, it's not identity. You can ask, how do people experience me, not do people like me? It's an important difference there. The goal isn't to make everyone like you. The goal isn't to people please or try to, again, perform for others. The goal is to become more self-aware and more intentional about how you show up. All in all, we know our hearts. We know our hearts, we know our intentions, we know what we mean, right? We know what we intended to come across. But that and how it actually lands and how you actually show up and how people experience and perceive you are two different things that can be miles apart, right? And so I challenge you and I challenge myself to examine ways and how people experience us. How do we show up for others? In the workplace, at home, for family, for friends, right? How are we showing up? How are people experiencing us? Are they experiencing the sides of us that bring more light and more glory to God, or are they experiencing you in your flesh, right? You as a grumpy, emotional, fleshy person filled with attitude, right? Which one are they able to experience? And so that is something that I will be tailoring this week, and I hope you join me. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. As always. And until next time, bye.